the most effective way to be a successful leader? How can you be a better mentor or coach? What skills can you develop to flex your leadership muscle and influence others? Making an impact on those around you comes down to the way that you communicate. One book that provides tactical advice on how to communicate well as a leader is The Coaching Habit by Michael Bungay Stanier. I read this fabulous book, so you don't have to. I'm going to share the 7 essential questions that this book goes through and other major takeaways, so you don't have to read the book yourself. Let's dive right in. We are all very busy people. So let me take a little bit of time today by giving you the big highlights from The Coaching Habit. Say less, ask more, and change the way you lead forever. Whether you're a people manager, a UX mentor or coach, or striving to progress through your career, having solid leadership skills, especially when it comes to communicating with others, is critical. Let me go through what I'm going to cover today. First, I'm going to talk about who this book is for. Then, I'm going to talk about what the book says. I'll get into the really meaty part of this book, which is those 7 essential questions. I'm going to deep dive into each of these questions and provide more context as to why you should be asking them in your coaching or one-on-one sessions. And finally, I have a little bit of a bonus, so stay to the end to make sure that you catch that. First, I want to talk about who I think this book is for. Maybe you're a manager or a people leader. Or maybe you're hoping to be a leader someday. And maybe you are a coach or a mentor to people more junior in your company or other UX folks. This book is for you. The biggest point I want to make is that no matter what your role is right now, you can and you are leading from where you are. I just have a feeling that you are really smart. You are watching this video, right? And you probably have some leadership potential. Really good leaders are here to inspire and grow and empower others. Hence why I think this is a great book for you. Whether you're conducting one-on-one meetings with direct reports, or if you're mentoring junior employees, having helpful, constructive coaching conversations is key to a person's professional development. And that's why I'm here to share some of these tried and true questions that you could be asking in your conversations to make your chats more focused and constructive. I love this quote. The essence of coaching lies in helping others unlock their potential. I want to point out the critical word here in this phrase, and that is coaching. Coaching is not telling the person what to do. Coaching is not having all of the answers. Coaching is helping the other person discover their own potential and empowering them to explore options. Coaching is the key to strong leadership and mentorship. You know what? I'm guessing that you have a lot on your plate right now. You're pretty busy, right? And I have a strong reason why I want you to take more of a coaching role rather than telling the person what to do or how to do it. That is because I don't want you to add anything else to your to-do list. You are busy enough. When you start telling other people what to do, even if you think it's just helpful advice, you're starting to own their problem. And when you start to own their problem, that adds more to your plate. This is not what we want to do. No. Instead, you want to coach the other person that you're talking to. The difference between coaching and owning the person's problem is when you tell the person what to do, you now own their problem. Doing this, you train people to become dependent on you. Now they know they can bring a problem to you and you're going to try to solve it. They don't have to think about solutions anymore. As the leader in the conversation, we do not want to do this. Also, they become disconnected from the work or the problem. They told you, you told them what to do. Now you own it. Now they don't have to stay engaged or motivated to do anything about it because you took ownership. The last flaw in this is now you're going to be a little bit more overwhelmed because you've taken more on. No, we don't want to do this. Stop directing and start coaching. Now let me walk you through a few tips when it comes to coaching others and using the questions from this coaching habit book. You should ask one question at a time. Be quiet and wait for the answer, even if it's awkward silence. As UX folks, we are used to conducting interviews, asking questions, and surviving through those awkward silences. It's just like that. Start your question with the phrase, out of curiosity, to lighten the heaviness of the question. Here's an example. Out of curiosity, how is that project we talked about last week? Let's say that project from last week was not a happy subject. And by adding the out of curiosity to the front of that question, it can soften the approach to the conversation. And finally, when you're having these conversations, focus on the 3 P's. Projects, people, patterns. Projects are the content of the situation, what they're working on. People are the people involved, the relationships, which could be challenging. And patterns are the patterns of behavior or ways of working that need to change. Talking about these things help the person focus on the root causes of their issues and gets down to what they really should talk about with you. The main point I want you to think about is how much talking versus listening you are doing. I've seen so many leaders talk too much. Are you guilty of this? Let's be honest here. When someone asks for advice, are you quick to offer a solution? Or are you staying back, staying silent, and letting them think about it a little bit more? Think about it. The next time you're in a meeting with someone, think about this acronym. I just love it. Wait, why am I talking? Make sure that you're giving the other person the time and the space to speak first. You, as the leader, are not doing all of the talking. You've probably heard the phrase, leaders speak last. That's a pretty famous book by Simon Sinek. If you want me to read that book so you don't have to, let me know down in the comments, and maybe I'll check it out for you. So why should leaders speak last? As a leader, speaking or offering your point of view last can make your leadership more effective. You are empowering others, and you are fostering an environment of respect and trust. Have you ever been part of a meeting and the leader gives their point of view first? What happened? Well, let me tell you. No one speaks against them. No one offers an alternative point of view. The consensus has been set. This is so frustrating. And this is why the coaching habit emphasizes the importance of the leader taking a back seat in the conversation. Jen's words, hey leader, shut the fuck up for a change. That's not in the book. Those are my words. So now let's get to the meaty part of the book. Let's look at the 7 essential questions this book covers. What's on your mind? And what else? What's the real challenge for you? What do you want? How can I help? If you're saying yes to this, what are you saying no to? What was the most useful for you? So I have a few notes on these questions. Remember Make sure you stop and listen to the answers to these questions. I know some of my less experienced researchers out there are used to having a list of interview questions to fly through. Not this time. These questions are not a checklist, and it does not mean that you have to get through all of the questions every time you have a conversation. Think of these more like a guide for your conversation, like your discussion guide is. Now let's break these questions down. I want to talk about the first question. What's on your mind? This is known as the Kickstarter question because it's the way to start off a conversation. Think about it. Many of us start off a conversation as, "How was your weekend?" This is a classic conversation starter, and I'm going to suggest that you do not start the conversation with that. Why? It just eats up time. Instead, jump right in with, "What's on your mind?" Starting with this question really helps you get to the heart of the matter. It focuses them on what is most important to them. You can use a simple phrase like, "Let's talk about the one thing that really matters to you most right now." Hopefully that makes sense. Let's move on to the next question. The next question you're going to ask is, "And what else?" This is known as the awe question. This question gets the person to expand or go deeper. Critical thinking comes into play with this question. Also, it's a good filler question when you, as the leader, when you're not really sure what's going on and you needed a moment to think. It happens. Ultimately, you, as the leader, should be seeking the answer, "There's nothing else." That's kind of your end goal. Asking this question, even more than once, has the person sort of think out loud and provide important context. Now you really want to get to the heart of the matter. So you ask, "What is the real challenge for you?" This is the focus question. This question really gets the person to hone in on what's important. It gets them to focus on themselves and what their real motivations and pain points are. They focus less on the little details. Asking this question will slow people down and make them think more deeply. Saying, "What is the real challenge for you?" helps people figure out the answers faster with more accuracy because the real challenge is just for them. Let's talk about the next question. What do you want? This is the foundation question. No, I'm not asking what kind of snack or cocktail they want. Red wine kind of sounds good to me right now, but let's stick to the topic at hand, shall we? You want to find out what they want. Sometimes knowing what you want can be hard to figure out. This is your opportunity to understand the difference between wants and needs. Wants are the surface requests, like tactical outcomes. This is more like what they want to happen in the end. Needs go deeper and identify the human driver behind the want. The needs surfaces what is really motivating them. When you ask, "What do you want?" listen to see if you can figure out the need that's behind the request. What you're trying to do here is get the person to discuss the outcomes they are seeking. But you're also hoping to uncover those motivations or needs for deeper exploration and understanding. The next question, how can I help? Now, it's your time to get a little involved, but just a tiny little bit. It is a bit funny that this is known as the lazy question, but I think it's the lazy question because it's more lazy for you as the leader in the conversation than the person you're having the one-on-one with. So let me explain that a bit. By asking how you can help, you keep the power in their hands. They decide what to do about the situation and what part you should play in that. Maybe sometimes you're that overly helpful person who wants to give too much advice. You know who you are. I'm guilty of it too. Remember, as a coach, being helpful is not stepping in and taking over. It is empowering the other person to explore their own options with your guidance, not dictation. Stop giving solutions or providing the answers. Let them provide those. This question gives them the power to make a clear and direct request of your involvement. When you jump in, you're adding something to your to-do list. Remember, we do not want to do this. Instead, say, "That's a great question. I have some ideas which I will share with you, but before I do, what are your thoughts?" Here's another good example. "That's great. What else could you do?" Sure, they might give you some specific tasks, but you can take the conversation and determine what you can and what they can tackle from the conversation. It's okay to be a bit lazy and to not take on their problems or concerns as your own. Let's move on to the next question. And that is, if you're saying yes to this, what are you saying no to? Ooh, this is a big question. I want to let that settle for a minute. If you're saying yes to this, what are you saying no to? This is known as the strategic question. And this question is for those folks who take on too much and have a tough time saying no. Guilty. Do you know anybody like this? If you do, drop me a yes in the chat. So this question helps them to identify boundaries. You are teaching them that the secret to saying no is to shift the focus. Learn how to say maybe before you say yes. Say yes more slowly. What I mean is to stay curious before saying yes and committing to something. So what that means is ask more questions, get more clarity. This buys you some time from saying yes right away. It also helps you gather more knowledge to determine if you should say yes or no. And let's move on to the last question. And I think that this question is kind of a nice to have. What was the most useful for you? And this is known as the learning question. The point of this question is that people start to learn when they have a chance to recall and reflect on the topic. You are giving them that space to reflect on the conversation that you just had. What was most useful for you? It kind of has a double loop. First, it's creating a learning moment in the conversation for them. And second, as a coach, it helps you to learn what was effective in your conversation. Again, I consider this more of an optional question, but it's still a nice way to wrap up a conversation. So let's revisit this whole list of those 7 essential questions one more time. What's on your mind? And what else? What's the real challenge for you here? What do you want? How can I help? If you're saying yes to this, what are you saying no to? And what was the most useful for you? Yes, these questions are all great, but I have one more superpower question that can take your leadership and coaching skills to the next level. And what is it? What do you think? This question packs a powerful punch because it empowers the person to come up with their own answers. It encourages them to provide more insight into the situation. Asking, "What do you think?" after they have sought your advice helps them to critically think about other options a little bit more. It uncovers underlying motivations, like what we talked about in the awe question. And what else? This question encourages them to go deeper, to share more, and to think more critically. It builds trust between the two of you, quite frankly. Now, for you as the leader in the conversation, when you ask, "And what else?" it prevents you from giving advice, which keeps you from getting involved and owning the problem. It prevents you from dictating what to do. And it creates a space for you to listen more. Now, I have one final thought for you to take away today. Talk less and coach more. Be there to act as a listening guide in the conversations, not the captain of the journey. Let them take the lead to their own destination. Keeping your input and guidance at a minimum is a very tough skill to master. But with persistence and time, you can learn the coaching habit and become a better leader. There you go. I read The Coaching Habit by Michael Bungay Stanier, so you don't have to. What do you think? Let me know in the comments what part of this book resonates most with you. If there are any other professional or UX books that you want me to read so you don't have to, drop the title and the author in the chat. I might consider it for next time. Thanks. Bye.